Hi Math 2E, this is page 9 of our packet, and this is polynomial long division. Before we get started, let's think back to how we did division in elementary school. So first of all, the 758 divided by 2 in our example, the 758 is our dividend. It goes underneath our division symbol. The 2 is our divisor, and it goes out in front. Our answer is called a quotient. So you would see how many times 2 goes into 7. It goes in 3 times. So you'd write that answer at the top. And then you would do 3 times 2 and get 6. Now careful. This is the really important part. It's what we mess up when we do polynomial long division. Then you would subtract. And when you do that, you would get 1. And you'd bring down the 5, and you do it all over again. And you think to yourself, how many times does 2 go into 15? And you would think 7, and you'd get 14. And now very key, you would subtract here. And when you did that, you would get 1. And then you would bring down the 8, and you would think how many times does 2 go into 8, and you would get 9, and you get 18, and very careful, this is going to be key, now you would subtract, and you would get 0 for your remainder. So let's take a look at our first problem. First of all, it's the same problem on the left and the right. It's just on the left it's written with my division symbol. This is my dividend. It's what's going to go underneath my radical. The x minus 2 is my divisor. It's what I'm dividing by. And my answer is going to be the quotient. So we can see the setup. My dividend is underneath the division symbol. My x minus 2 is out to the side. So very much like I did before, I'm going to concentrate on just the x here. I'm not going to worry about the minus 2 at all. So my first term is x cubed. So I think to myself, what do I have to multiply that x, the x I've underlined in green, what do I have to multiply that by to get that x cubed I've underlined? And I have to multiply by x squared. So I'm going to take x squared times x, and I'm going to get an x cubed. I'm also going to take x squared times my minus 2, and I'm going to get minus 2x squared. So this is the really important part. I now have to subtract. This is what we always kind of forget. So I'm going to subtract and subtract, meaning I change both my signs to the opposite, and my x cubes cancel, and it looks like I get 6x squared. So now let's bring down the next number, minus 7x, and let's pause for a moment. I now have a 6x squared as my leading term. I need to think to myself, what do I need to multiply my green underlined x by to get this 6x squared? Well, I need to multiply it by 6x. So 6x times x gives me that 6x squared, and 6x times negative 2 gives me negative 12x. And before I do anything, I need to catch myself and make sure I subtract both terms. That means I'm going to change my signs. So minus and plus. And now I'm ready to subtract. My 6x squareds cancel, and it looks like I get 5x, bring down my minus 10. So now I look at this, and I think to myself, what do I need to multiply my green underlined x by to get 5x? Well, I need to multiply by a 5. And so I get 5x minus 10 when I multiply my divisor times that 5. And now, very importantly, I have to remember to subtract. That means I'm going to change both of my signs. And when I do that, I get 0 for my remainder. So the answer to this problem is the quotient. This is my quotient. I have my dividend divided by my divisor, and my answer is the quotient. This is my answer. So one of the things I know is, going back to my grade school problem, if I did 2 times my quotient, which was 379, I would get back 758. So the same thing is true here. I could think of x cubed plus 4x squared minus 7x minus 10. I could think of that as being equal to x minus 2 times x squared plus 6x plus 5. So I can multiply my quotient times my divisor to see if I get my dividend. Is it true? I mean, that's how I know if I didn't make any mistakes. So I'm going to do a 2 by 3 box. My quotient, x squared plus 6x plus 5 across the top. My divisor, x minus 2 along the side. And again, I'm doing this to see, do I get my dividend back? Do I get my x cubed plus 4x squared minus 7x minus 10? Let's see. So when I multiply, I get x cubed, I get 6x squared, and I get 5x. At the bottom, I get negative 2x squared, I get negative 12x, and I get negative 10. So my answer would be x cubed plus 4x squared minus 7x minus 10. And you'll notice that's exactly what I started with in the very beginning. This is how I checked my answer to make sure I did my math correctly. So why don't you pause this video and do the second problem and come back and we'll compare our answers. Welcome back. Hopefully you got x minus 2 for your answer. Did you remember the really key step to subtract? I know, that's a tough one. You got to make sure that you remember to subtract all 3 of those terms. Also notice in number 1, we were dividing. Our divisor was a binomial. And you'll notice all throughout my work, everything was a binomial that I was working with. And in the second problem, our divisor was a trinomial. And you'll notice then I was always working with a trinomial in my work. So a couple key things I want to talk about. I know that this x cubed plus 4x squared minus 7x minus 10 is equal to my divisor, x squared plus 6x plus 5, times my quotient, which is x minus 2. So I could take the time to multiply them, and if I did that, I'd be able to show that I got the correct answer. So let's jump down to the third one. On the third one, we're going to have a remainder. So this one is going to work out a little differently. Why don't you pause this video for a moment and try to work it all the way out till you get to your remainder, and come back to this video and let's compare our work. Welcome back. How'd you do? Did you get 9 as your remainder? I think the key step is to make sure after you multiply that you subtract. And in this problem, I showed my subtraction in green. So you have to make sure that you subtract both your terms. That means you have to change the sign. It's a really key step. You'll also notice that since my divisor was a binomial, oh, I thought I was on my highlighter. I apologize. You'll also notice since my divisor was a binomial that all of my work were binomials. So now how do we write that? We don't really write the R that we wrote when we were in grade school. We write the remainder over the divisor, since the 9 has yet to be divided by x minus 1. So our final answer would actually be written not as R9, but as, out to the side, 9, we write plus 9 over x minus 1. It's just the undivided part. The 9 had yet to be divided by x minus 1. So that would be my final answer. X squared plus 4x plus 7 plus 9 over x minus 1. So down at the bottom it says, what happens when you divide a polynomial by a linear factor? So if you look up at number 1, our x minus 2 is a linear factor because it's x to the first power. I'll put a little 1 here. It was an x to the first. Well, you'll notice that we started with an x cubed polynomial, and my answer, my quotient, was an x squared, or we started with a degree 3 polynomial, and after I divided by a linear term, I got a degree 2. So it looks like it went down by 1 degree. I divided by a linear factor, which has a degree of 1, and it turns out that my polynomial degree went down by 1. So my linear factor has a degree of 1, and now my quotient, my answer, went down by 1 degree. What happens to when you divide a polynomial by a quadratic factor? Well, that's what happened in the second one. Let's go look at it. This is my quadratic factor. That's my degree of 2 I just circled right there. I'm drawing 2. You'll notice that I started with a cubic polynomial of degree 3, but my quotient is really a linear polynomial. It's x to the first power minus 2. So it looks like to me that if I divided by something with a degree of 2, that my answer is 2 degrees less than my original dividend. So x cubed went down 2 degrees to x to the first. So when I divide my polynomial by a quadratic factor, my polynomial degree decreased, is probably a better way to say that than went down, by 2. So it looks like that when I divide by something, my answer goes down by that many, whatever degree my divisor was. How can you check your answers? Well, number 1, we checked our answers by multiplying the quotient, that's my answer, by the divisor to see if we get the dividend. And then it says to use multiplication, check your answer number 1. And lucky us, we've already done that, so we don't need to check our answer in number 1. Thank you.